Howdy folks, welcome to another beautiful day out here in West Vancouver. So today we started looking around for a car again for Connor because he's about to go and do his MN license, and we need a second car for the family, and Connor is getting his license soon, so we're looking for a car for him. Anyway, so it's interesting. Looking for a car, a second-hand vehicle is not the simplest thing in the world, but I mean, we've been going through Auto Trader and all that. But there was a couple of interesting things that I noticed while checking out for a car or while looking for a car. Is like, things that I pick up that's different from here in South Africa, or maybe different from my mindset here and my mindset in South Africa. Back in South Africa, if a car hit 100,000 kilometers, we were always like, oh no, it's over 100,000 kilometers. We're not in, you didn't want to buy a car that's got more than 100,000 kilometers on it. And I think it had to do with that we all had that up to 100,000 service plans, So it's like, no, that's an old car. It's going to start giving you problems and things like that. Whereas here, especially with the Fords and the Dodges and things, it's it's no surprise to see a vehicle that's got, whoa, loud bike or something. It's no surprise to see a vehicle that's got 200,000 or 240,000 or 180,000 kilos on the clock. I mean, and it's like, I don't know, it just feels different. Back in South Africa, I probably wouldn't look at a vehicle that's got more than 120 or 130,000 on the clock. And over here, I'm okay looking at a vehicle with 200,000 on the clock. I think it's also got to do with the fact that, vehicles, especially like the Fords, there's so many Fords running in the US and in Canada that, if something goes wrong with it, it's very easy to get parts, it's very easy to fix it up, it's very easy to replace pieces. I mean, I was checking it the other day, I was looking on the auctions at a Dodge Charger that was selling there, and they say it had transmission problems. You could buy a whole new transmission for $1,000. It's not that much. It's easy to buy a new transmission and stick it in. I've done transmissions in my life before. So the first thing is, it does seem like people are more willing to drive vehicles that has more kilometers on it, or to purchase vehicles that has more kilometers on it. And it could only be me. It could be completely wrong. The second thing that I'm seeing is that, like, the financing at the moment, car financing is between 6.99% and 9% interest, which is actually significantly high. I mean, it's not cheap, but at the same time, you can now finance your car up to 96 months. I mean, that's what? Shit, that's like 7 years. What's it? 5 years is 60 months. 8 years, so you can go up to 8 years. No, if I got my calculations wrong, 8 years. So you can go up to 8 years in financing. You can finance a car at 9% for 8 years. In South Africa, we never did finance for more than that. I think the longest we had at that stage was 60 months. The banks wouldn't finance a car over 60 months. After 5 years, it's a different story. So it does seem that financing runs a little bit longer here. And now the last thing is trying to look for these vehicles. It's not easy trying to find the perfect vehicle for a kid. Obviously Connor wants something cool. He's willing to go and get a job and to help pay off. A vehicle of $22,000 with a $2,500 down payment. Of course, if the vehicle is advertised for $22,000, don't think it's $22,000, because you're going to have to add GST and HST to it, so it goes more to like $24,000, $25,000, and then a few other fees that they add on top. But a vehicle like that, you put down $2,500 deposit, and it works out to about $400 a month with over 60 months or 72 months, which isn't that bad. The kid can make it. There are lots of kids work here, they make a lot more than that in a month. And they don't have accommodation expenses because they still live with dad, so they can buy the vehicle. I'm trying to figure out what the insurance is going to be on the vehicle with a N driver or a young driver. Interesting fact, in Vancouver, in British Columbia, is one of the provinces where they do not look at a kid, at the person's age or gender when they figure out his insurance policy. So I was looking at it and I was like, oh, okay, cool. So they don't look at your age before to decide on how much you're going to pay for your insurance. So if you're younger, it's not going to push your insurance up. Technically that's correct, but in truth it's not, because they don't look at your age, but they do look at how long you've had your license. So obviously if you're younger, you've had your license for a shorter period of time, and if you've had your license for a shorter period of time, you're going to pay higher premiums. Boom, there you go. So we're not looking at your age, mate. We're not age discriminating. We're just looking at the age of your license, and we can discriminate against that. Well, which makes sense, don't get me wrong. Anyway, so yeah, sheesh, I went off track a little bit there. So yeah, we're looking at this car. We're trying to find a vehicle for Connor, and it's of course you've got this whole thing going on with, you've got the dealerships and then you've got the private sales. There's a lot of private sales around here. Now, the benefit of buying through a dealer is that you can get financing. I do not think you can get financing through a private sale. Some of the vehicles on the private sales are obviously a little bit cheaper, but Melinda says she doesn't want to go with a private sale because you don't have recourse. You know, if you bought the vehicle from a dealer and there's a problem, you can also always go back, and they kind of, you know, even if they don't have warranties and stuff, they do have a little bit of responsibility because, you know, they're a dealership, they're a car dealer. If they sell somebody a dud, it's not good for their image. So we are only looking at dealers at this stage because Melinda put her foot down, and of course we need to finance this vehicle. We don't have the cash to buy it outright. But yeah, it's a difficult one. Still trying to figure out what to do. You know, on the one hand there's some, dude, you can buy like old cars for like $3,000, $4,000 for a sedan. I mean, we can pay that up front and be cash. I mean, there's it. It's a 2005 car, and it's got 200,000 kilos on the clock, and it still drives and runs smooth. And you know, the benefit of that is, for $4,000 or whatever, if you buy that car and it lasts you a year or it lasts you 2 years, who cares? It still runs. If it's going to get you there, if it lasts you 2 years, if it gets some serious damage and it's like breaks down, you like sell it off for scrap metal and you're done. It's not a big investment that you lose, but you know, you're obviously sitting with a vehicle that might drop you in the trouble if you're on the road. It might break down, things like that. On the other hand, you've got the newer cars with less kilos, but now you're talking $25,000, $26,000. I mean, that is $400 a month that you need to put down just for your car payment, and probably another $200 a month for your insurance when you have a young driver behind the wheel. So that's a significant chunk of change, you know. And where do you slot in? Of course, I know where Connor slots in. He wants to drive, I mean, he's going to drive the car to school, take him and his sister to school, so I don't have to do it anymore. But, you know, he obviously doesn't want to pull in up at school there with his mates with an old clunker that is worth $3,000. You know, he needs to be a little bit cooler. But so, anyway, long story. We are still looking for a car. It is time. We have to buy something, and we're trying to figure out what and what's the best. You know, on the one hand, I'm trying to say to Connor, maybe we should buy him a truck, because, you know, a truck has got utility. I used to, when I was a kid, I used to make lots of money in school doing scrap metal. I used to always drive. So what would happen in Potchefstroom, where I lived, there was this big giant dump where, you know, where all the dump trucks and people dumped everything, and then you had these scavengers at the dump that would collect all the scrap metal. They would collect cans and wires and electronics and everything that could be sold. They would collect, because they lived there at the dump, and they would make these giant piles. But they had a problem. They could not get the stuff from the dump to the scrap metal yard. So what would happen is, I mean, the guy, he would get a load of stuff dropped off, and he would collect a whole pile of metal, and then if he takes as much as he can carry, it takes him like 4 or 5 hours to walk to the scrap metal yard. By the time he gets back, the rest of his stuff has been stolen. So I spotted that gap, and I used to go after school in the afternoons. I would drive to the dump with my truck, and I would make a deal. I'd be like, okay, you've got this pile of metal. I would either buy it off of them there at a discount, so they get more money, and then I go sell it and I make a profit, or we would go split it. So that was eventually what started happening. Most of the time I would just go there, the guys would load up a full load of metal, we drive to the scrap metal yard, we sell it, and we go 50-50. He collected it, I delivered it. So anyway, off track again. That is what a truck gives you. You know, you can do stuff like that. You can help people move. You can charge for stuff. I had a business in South Africa when things were tough. I had this truck and we used to do mini moves. We would charge people and go to their houses on their afternoon and move their furniture, or, you know, if they moved in the beds and few things. We were like a moving service. So a truck does give you that benefit. But then again, the problem with a truck driving around town is very, very expensive on fuel. You know, those Ford, we were looking at a Ford F-150 four-door proper truck, 2016 model, 200,000 kilos on the clock, very nice looking truck, but it gives you like, it takes about 12 liters per 100 kilometers in the city. 12 liters per 100 kilometers, that's a lot of fuel. It's expensive to run. And you're just going to drive down to school and around town with it and not work with it. I don't know if that's worth it. Of course, sorry, we all got a little bit of the flu still. Of course, the other thing is Connor is still stuck on getting himself a cool car, and he's committed to saying he's going to do the work and he's going to pay it off. He's still got his head set on that Mustangs. You know, remember we looked at a Mustang quite a while ago, and now there's another one, a nice 2.4 liter EcoBoost 2014, I think, or 2015 Mustang for 22 grand, this blue one, beautiful car. So he's very interested in that. We're going to go and have a look at it tomorrow. His mom, of course, is completely dead set against it, but I trust him. He's not a guy that's going to drive like a maniac. He's he's a little bit too much like his mom in that sense. You know, they're very responsible. Me, I wouldn't buy a car like that for Angelique because she's a little maniac, and you know, so am I suppose. We're not that responsible, but Connor and his mom, they're very responsible. Anyway, sorry for the long video today, folks. You all must have a good one, and I'll keep you updated. Cheers.